Okay, here we are, Doodle Days. And I thought a good topic would be punctuation, the exclamation and question marks. So I like setting things up. I like going and researching and getting images. You don't have to do this today, but I'm just saying mood boards are always a good way to collect ideas and see what other people are working on. You just sort of collect them and you throw into a slideshow here. Basically, a fancy word of creating a library of resources and ideas is called a mood board. And then I thought I would do some practice drawing. So behind me, you'll see this practice drawing I was working on yesterday. I'm going to show you how to do this scored thing to a page, and then you do the drawing over top of the texture. I always like to think of using negative and positive space in interesting ways that can kind of, even when you're doodling. Here's the materials here, an eraser that gets really black as you're working away. I'll give you a tip about that, like how to clean it off with a piece of sandpaper. And then big smudge sticks. This is actually a piece of graphite right there. In a minute, same drill as before. Put your name, place your doodle. We'll take about half an hour to do our doodles, and then take a photo of them on your phone, bring them into the slideshow. But one of my favorite things to draw with is actually Vine charcoal and different charcoal things, because I feel like you can morph and shape the drawing more. You're not like, it's a little more forgiving in some ways, and you can move it around and you can do all sorts of fascinating things with this material. A lot of students always get locked into using like an HB or pencil, or they buy their pencil things, and this is what they think graphite looks like. And this is what I thought graphite was for years. So I actually make graphite things that are this big right here. Graphite sticks come in all shapes and sizes, right? It's depending on what you want to use. So those are all the different graphite things that I tend to use depending on what mark I need to make in a drawing. Another thing people don't typically think of doing is you always think of adding things onto a drawing. You don't think of like maybe scoring a piece of paper ahead of time. You can actually take some scissors and score the piece of paper ahead of time like this. Then you can take your charcoal, you can move that in place, and then you've got a score mark already in there. So you've got a base texture. So you can score it with scissors. You can also score it with really coarse sandpaper. It also gives you a different look. So I can come in here and I can erase the piece of paper like this. Now that's going to add to the texture. So I'm going to come back into my Vine charcoal, move that over top of there. Now I've built up a texture base there, right? If that's a little bit too dark, then I can take my eraser and just erase that away ever so slightly. And then in about 2 seconds, I have a texture surface that I haven't had to draw. So then I could draw an exclamation mark over that, and then start making my drawing accordingly. Sandpaper also works super handy for cleaning off your eraser if you've been erasing something. So if I just go get a 320 or 180 piece of sandpaper, sand that off, so I have a fresh side of the eraser to use. I don't know if any of you out there have used Vine charcoal a lot, but I use that as my base. I build up my drawing with it. The Vine charcoal you can remove and move around very easily and quickly, where the graphite grips the paper a bit more. So I usually start with a piece of Vine charcoal. Even if it looks really dark like that, it typically doesn't need to stay that way. When you take your finger, it can erase it away. You take your blending stumps here, you can actually start blending it in. It gets more dramatic as you use the compressed charcoal. So if I go here and use the compressed charcoal, and I can just take the stump and do that with it. This is where I encourage people to try sometimes drawing with an eraser. So you can come back in here. You can get all sorts of cool things. Here's the big graphite stick. I could come on here, and you can see that it gives different marks and a different nature to the mark and to the color of the gray, right? Even though things are black or gray, there's different types of gray and different types of way that the material grips the paper. Different tools will do different things for you. So those are a few tips with the materials that I'm going to be using to create the drawing this morning.